Okay, everybody, Papa's back. We've got more of Avengers versus the Hulk. Here's a quick recap. Thor and Iron Man chasing after the Hulk. He's hidden away inside an underground mine shaft. Giant Man and the Wasp are in the area, and we still have yet to see Submariner make an appearance, but he's going to do that today. You ready to go? All right. Here we have Hulk coming up from underground. He says, I thought I heard a train rumbling overhead, just what I need. So here comes the train down the track. But here's also Iron Man and Thor. Iron Man says, there he goes. Thor says, we've got him now. And Hulk thinks, they're faster than I thought. There's got to be some way to make them stop hounding me, as the Hulk leaps away. Suddenly, the Incredible Hulk seizes the empty caboose in his powerful hands and he tosses it at the superheroes. Here, chew on this for a while. Well, that's quite a meal, isn't it? But mighty Thor and Iron Man crash through the flying car as though it were made of cardboard. Wham with the hammer, wham with the iron fists. Iron Man says, that hammer of yours sure is a handy gizmo to have around, Thor. If that didn't stop you, says Hulk, this will. He's got a grappling hook. And Iron Man says, Hulk, wait, you can't keep this up forever. You can't fight all of us. You can't battle all of mankind. Hulk says, well, you want to watch? And so he says, who says I can't? And he swings the grappling hook. And Iron Man says, I have to drop off. I can't let that crane hit me. But here comes Thor. And Hulk says, still after me, huh, Thunder God? Okay, I'm ready for you. And he thinks, all I got to do is grab me a hunk of this steel cable. So he tosses it at Thor. There, you can't do much harm with that hammer of yours if you can't swing it. And Thor says, don't discount my strength, Hulk. I'll break free of this cable as soon as I flex my muscles. And so the Hulk sends this cable all the way around Thor, wrapping him up. But Hulk says, maybe so, but I'm not going to hang around and wait. But look, Giant Man, where'd he come from? And Giant Man says, he doesn't know that I followed on my flying ant and then took a growth capsule to become Giant Man when I reached the train. Giant Man says, those flour bags you grabbed from the freight car won't do you any good, Hulk. You can't get away from me now. That's what everybody says, but no one's caught me yet, big man, brags the Hulk. What's he going to do with those flour bags? He's going to jump, and he says that overgrown arm of yours ain't too big for the Hulk to jump over. So with his powerful legs, he jumps over Giant Man's outstretched arm. And then, now we see what he's going to do with the flour bags. All I got to do is shove this flour into the smokestack like this. And the flour is going to start billowing up, creating a cloud. And Giant Man realizes, so that's why he took the flour. He created a smoke screen. I can't see. And oh my word, look, the train goes under a tunnel. Giant Man is caught. Whoom! He's knocked in his head by the tunnel, and he's knocked off the train. And Giant Man realizes the Hulk is gone. I've failed, as he lays across the tracks. Don't reproach yourself, Giant Man, says Iron Man. We've all failed so far as the Hulk is concerned. Thor says it is because we do not wish to seriously injure him, so we pull our punches. That gives him the advantage. Thor's right, says Giant Man. Hulk tries every savage trick in the book while we hold back, trying to reason with him, trying to save him from himself. Well, here comes the Wasp. She's been flying ahead doing reconnoiter. She says, we've lost him now, boys. I saw the train when it sped through Centerville, but he wasn't aboard any longer. Throughout the countryside, the search goes on, the search for the Hulk. And here's a truck driver saying, have I seen the Hulk? Are you kidding? If I ever saw him, I'd make this truck fly over the road. So the soldiers and policemen are hunting for the Hulk. But later, when the driver dumps his load of gravel into a stream, he's unaware that he's dumping more than plain gravel. Why, look, the Hulk was hiding. He was hiding in the dump truck all the time. And so now he's in the stream and he's going to swim off undetected. He thinks, so far, so good. They'll never find me now. Due to his incredibly powerful lungs, the Hulk can remain underwater for long periods of time. Although, like a whale, he must surface for air eventually. And as he swims along, he thinks the Gulf Stream isn't too far from here. Finally, after days in the water, even the Hulk's mighty body is on the verge of complete exhaustion. And then, as he floats aimlessly in the cold Atlantic, hard to starboard, there's someone floating out there. It can't be human, and yet they see this large green-skinned figure out in the water. And so they rescue him. Look, it's the Hulk. He'll drown us all. Don't be a fool, sailor, says the captain. He's more dead than alive. Put him on deck and notify Washington immediately. Oof, pull harder. He must weigh a ton. I bet he does. But now our scene shifts to a secret undersea chamber where we find, finally, the fellow we've been waiting for. It's Submariner. And he says, so far everything is working out perfectly. The Submariner has been watching the Hulk's movements. And he says, little does the Hulk realize that his every movement is being followed by the monarch of the sea, Prince Namor, the Submariner. The Hulk's strength will return sooner than the humans suspect, and when it does, and when he abandons the ship, I'll be waiting for him. True to Namor's prediction, the matchless strength of the Hulk does return in a short time, and then he sees a small deserted island. He thinks that's just the place for me. I can grab me a passing ship anytime I want to, but first I want a place where I can be alone, where I can plan my next moves against the human race that hates me. So he jumps into the water. He swims toward the island, but when the mighty creature reaches the isle, he finds, look, waiting for him is Submariner, who says, I've been waiting for you, Hulk, and you should be flattered, for normally the Submariner waits for nobody. The Hulk pulls himself up on a rock, and he realizes it's the Submariner. Get off this island, fish man. I'm sick of looking at puny humans, sick of the sound of their voices. Submariner replies, brainless dolt, you call me human? I am Namor, Prince of Atlantis. Hulk grabs him and says, I don't care who you are. You look like a human, and that's enough to make me want to toss you clear back to the mainland. Submariner says, what? You dare lay a hand on my royal personage? Boy, I can't wait to see this fight. Submariner flings off the Hulk with his own mighty strength. He says, "You have much to learn, land-bound clod, and this is your first lesson." "You know something, little man," says the Hulk, "you shoot your mouth off too much." And so he shoves Submariner up against a rock. "This'll quiet you down for a while, like forever." And he slams a slab of rock over the top of Submariner. "You still think you're dealing with a helpless human, do you? Well, we shall see." And the Submariner flexes his muscles. He says, "It is said that you are the strongest living creature on the surface of the earth. Well, know you this, Namor is the strongest of all the sea creatures. And once I am in the water, my own natural element, my power will exceed even yours." Hulk says, "Nothing stronger than the Hulk, not on land or sea or anywhere." And so these two powerful superhuman creatures battle each other. They struggle and they fight. And they fall into the sea. And Namor says, "You witless fool, you dare to doubt a prince of the blood?" So underwater, Namor is going to have the advantage. "Here, many fathoms in the deep, you are at my mercy. Here I am supreme. Now, while you're reeling, all I need to do is swim around you at whiplash speed to create a whirlpool which will drain all your remaining strength." So look at Submariner swimming around in a circle. And then he says, "I trust I have made my point clear, Hulk. You are the strongest of land creatures, while I am completely invincible when in the sea." And so he pulls the weakened Hulk up to the island again. But now they begin to negotiate. Submariner says, "We both share a burning hatred for the human race. If we act together, we can bring humanity to its knees." Hulk says, "You mean you want to team up with me? Well, maybe it ain't such a bad idea at that. You're pretty tough for a little guy." And indeed, I would say the Submariner is quite tough if he can hold his own against the Hulk. He says, "The humans are my sworn enemies. Because of them, I have lost my birthright, my people, everything I hold dear." Hulk says, "I don't go for all that flowery talk, but I hate humans too." So he just gets straight to the point. "Then it is agreed," says Submariner. "Our first mission shall be to deliver a smashing defeat to the accursed Avengers. I shall summon my electronically controlled command ship to take us to our destination." But once inside the ship, the Hulk thinks, "I'll string along for a while, then smash him when he's off guard." Namor, in the meantime, is thinking he's too strong, too undependable. When he's served his purpose, I'll destroy him. So these allies really don't think much of each other, and they just plan to use each other to fight against the Avengers. Hours later, Namor's powerful command craft secretly glides under the surface to a mooring in the shadows of the mighty Gibraltar. That's a great mountain at Spain, at the entrance to the Mediterranean Sea. He says, "This is where we shall battle the Avengers, for here we have both land and water. Our strength can be used to best advantage." "Sure, sure," says the Hulk, "if you say so, fish man." Later, at Avengers HQ, Iron Man is receiving a message. He says, "There's no doubt about it. The message is genuine. Submariner and the Hulk have joined forces, and they challenge us to battle." Oh my, the Hulk and the Submariner against the 4 remaining Avengers. That'll be quite a battle, I suspect. Thor says, "Then this time there can be no pulling of punches, no mercy asked or given. Yes, by Asgard, this time we fight to the finish." All right, Goldilocks has a mighty voice, doesn't he? And the Wasp, she uses her girly charms. I hope it won't be your finish, handsome, because I'm still waiting to see what you'd look like in an Ivy League suit and a crew cut with those shoulders, those eyes. Oh, Wasp, get with it. Giant Man says, aren't you ever going to grow up, Wasp? Haven't you anything else on your mind? Well, happy day, says the Wasp. Do I finally see a glint of green in those big blue eyes of yours? Now put me down, you big show-off. This is very undignified. Not long afterwards, 3 of the world's most colorful evil smashers arrive at Gibraltar within an experimental prototype model of a new deep-sea jet, bathyscaphe, designed and built at the weapons factory of Anthony Stark. Here we are. That Tony Stark can sure build a sub, and I wish we could have a talent like his in the Avengers. Huh. Well, you know, they do, don't they? And that's what Iron Man is thinking. You've got me, gal. Too bad you don't know that Stark and Iron Man are the same fella. All right, so let us be careful, says Thor. They said they would be waiting in these old caves under the giant rock. Giant Man says these caves were used by the British in World War II and later abandoned. Interesting, says Iron Man. I understand there are still weapons here which they left behind. The Wasp says, look out! I see one of those weapons up ahead. The Wasp is right, for directly in front of the Avengers, there's a cannon. And the Hulk says, this is a waste of time. We can't stop them with an old howitzer shell. Submariner says, I am aware of that, slow-witted one, but it might make Thor hurl his hammer, and as soon as it leaves his hand, we strike. So this is strategy. But mighty Thor does not hurl his great weapon. Instead, he holds it. He says, stand back, all of you. He's going to try to hit the missile like it's a baseball. But Iron Man says, no, Thor, it won't affect us, but the explosion may injure the Wasp. Let me handle it. There, I can make the shell reverse its trajectory with my magnetic repulsors. And so he just aims his magnetic repulsors at the missile, and as Giant Man says, it's heading right back towards Hulk and Submariner. And Wasp says, and because of lovely little me, how gallant. And so, as the missile hurls back, Submariner says, duck, you ponderous, slow-moving clod. You must not be injured while I have need for your brutish strength. What an arrogant thing for Submariner to say. And the Hulk realizes this. He thinks I'm just some kind of stooge, but he'll live to regret those words before I'm done. And so the bomb explodes harmlessly behind Submariner and the Hulk. Submariner then brings out a gun. He says no one knows how many transistor-powered weapons Iron Man has at his control, and so I shall put him out of action first, like this. And he fires a pistol. Iron Man says, he hit me with an emery dust pellet. It'll make my metal joints stiffen. I never expected that. And so this pellet is full of emery dust, like you use in a fingernail file, but it settles into his joints and turns him stiff. In fact, look, he's going to fall face forward while Thor finally hurls his hammer. He says, go to his aid, my giant ally. I shall keep our two foes at bay with my enchanted mallet. And Giant Man says, I never saw anything happen so fast. He's stiff as a board and can't move. Giant Man says, Wasp, fly through these caves quickly. See if you can find any old abandoned oxygen equipment which may still be operational. Wasp says, will do, lover boy. And so Giant Man settles Iron Man down on the ground. For the next few seconds, as the wonderful flying wasp frantically searches the winding caves, Thor's thundering hammer ricochets from wall to wall. Look at it. It's so powerful, and it creates a barrier behind which the Hulk and Submariner must cower. Submariner says, "Never have I witnessed such an awesome display of naked power." And exactly 58 seconds later, less than a minute, Thor says, "To me, my wondrous mallet," and the hammer returns to Thor. And Giant Man says, "Good work, Wasp, just what I wanted. This old air raid life-saving equipment should do the trick." And so with this, oxygen, Giant Man can blow away all of that emery dust that is seizing up Iron Man. And I just noticed the reason that it was 58 seconds is because Thor can't be apart from his hammer for more than 60 seconds or he reverts back to Don Blake. Did y'all know that? We'll probably see that happen in other stories. All right, let's move on. "There," says Giant Man, "is pumping out the emery dust, and he's starting to move." Meantime, the Wasp is flying along, keeping an eye on Hulk and Submariner. She thinks, "They're up to something else. I've got to follow. Together, they're so powerful. I'm worried for the first time." Hulk says, "The Avengers are just on the other side of this wall. Now stay back, Fishman. I'll show you what the Hulk can do." Submariner thinks, "I'll humor the thick-skinned fool for now, while I still need an ally." "Cover your ears, little man. They'll hear this halfway to Calcutta." Boom! Hulk's mighty fist tears down the wall, and they break through. And they find the Avengers, but the poor Wasp, unseen, not having time to take cover, bears the full brunt of the Hulk's savage, eardrum-shattering blow as the tiny Adventuress suddenly blacks out. She falls down below. Seconds later, still dazed and weak, she tries valiantly to dodge the stones which fall all around her. They may be only pebbles, but they're like huge boulders to me. And so she's in danger from the shattered rock, from the Hulk's mighty blow. Before the Hulk can launch another blow in his effort to bring the walls down upon the Avengers, the fighting mad trio thunders toward the source of the sound. So here comes Thor, Giant Man, and Iron Man, but they don't see the Wasp. She realizes, I'll be trampled. And thank heaven she found a little groove in the ground where she could hide. Thank heavens the ground here is so uneven, and so they pass over her and she is unscathed. And then she flies up. She says, "I've had enough of being a lone wolf. I'm not leaving Giant Man's shoulder again until we're out of here." So she takes refuge on Giant Man's shoulder. But directly above the Avengers, Submariner says, "Your fists are too slow, my bestial partner. I have modified this old air raid alarm so its shrill, high-piercing blast will destroy any living being who comes too close." What's he going to do with this siren? Suddenly, Giant Man reaches up and says, "You're too little to be playing with such dangerous toys, fella." Thor says, "Well done, Giant Man," as Giant Man grabs Submariner's wrist. But of course, Submariner is strong enough to fight off Giant Man. He says, "Though you are twice my size, my strength is still far greater than yours." "Ugh!" says Giant Man as Submariner uses his wings on his ankles to fly and turn Giant Man backwards. Hulk says, "I won't interfere. I want to see how good that skinny fish face is without me." But before the Sea Monarch can shift his weight in order to exert maximum pressure. Giant Man tosses him, and he says, he's all yours, Thor. Grab him. And then Iron Man gets involved. He says, no, Thor is too angry. Sometimes he doesn't know his own strength. We don't want to kill Submariner, just reason with him. I'll try to stop him with my magnetic repulsor. And so Iron Man jumps up and shoots his repulsor rays and stops Submariner and flings him back. But Submariner says, that was your first mistake, puny human. I expect no mercy, and I give none. So he reaches up and grabs Iron Man's ankle. Taken by surprise, Iron Man receives a crushing blow. Wham! And this blow damages his life-giving transistors. And so he thinks, I can't continue the battle. I must repair my chest device. Because remember, if the transistors stop functioning, I'm doomed. His heart will stop beating without the transistors that keep the shrapnel from entering his heart. And here comes Submariner. He says, now to finish this charade. He leaps after the others and goes for Thor. Back, Submariner, says Thor. Do not force me to strike your mortal body with my all-powerful mallet. Submariner says, all-powerful? Bah! I'll prove once and for all how overrated you are, you costume clown. And so Submariner dares to take on Thor and Thor's mighty hammer. But here comes the Hulk to interfere. He says, you're the clown, flathead, if you think you can lick Thor alone. But now that you've proved you can fight, I'll just step in and lend you a hand. And so Hulk grabs Thor while Submariner strikes. And Thor might not be a match for both the Hulk and the Submariner. Hulk says, once I get this blasted war club away from him, the rest will be easy. But Thor says, nothing that lives can pry my hammer from the hand of Thor. No one is worthy enough to handle Thor's hammer. It can't be lifted by anyone else other than Thor. And Hulk says, you're not talking to some weakling, Thunder God. I'm still the Hulk, and I can do anything. Oh, says the Hulk, he was right. It's both my hands against his one, and I can't budge the thing. But I gotta keep trying. I'm twice his size. I'm the Hulk. I'm the Hulk. And I'm telling you, not even the Hulk can budge Thor's hammer. Unexpectedly, at that very split second, the mighty Thor releases his grip on the Uru hammer, and it whirls through the cave like a thing alive. I am weary of this game. The hammer is yours if you can grasp it. My muscles ache for battle, not tests of strength. So the hammer flies from his hand and takes the Hulk off guard. Submariner says, stay back, Hulk. I'll get the hammer. I'm faster than you. Fool, says Thor, do you still not see that none but Thor can possess my mallet? And Giant Man jumps in. Step aside, Thor. I want another crack at this arrogant little freak. And so Thor says, to me again, my enchanted club. Thor says, none must learn that I return to my mortal identity as Dr. Blake if my hammer is ever out of my hand for more than 60 seconds. Submariner, being grabbed by Giant Man, cries out, Hulk, where are you? I need you now. To my side, you lumbering oaf. You'll never call me names like that again, Namor. I'll help you all right, and when we've beaten the Avengers, I'll finish you next. And so the Hulk has realized that Namor is not his friend. He's not his ally. He's only using him. And so he becomes angry with Namor. But this anger starts a chain reaction. Before the massive human dreadnought can reach his ally, a sudden change comes over him, and there in the gloom of the underground cave, no, no, the Hulk is beginning to revert to his human identity of Bruce Banner. I've become Bruce Banner again. It must have been the excitement, the stress. I'm my normal self. They haven't seen me yet. They mustn't. There's still a chance if I run, I can still escape while they battle Namor. And so Bruce Banner runs away. In another few seconds, we might have won, or we might have been destroyed ourselves, but now we'll never know. Perhaps it's better this way. As Bruce Banner, I've no hatred for the Avengers. I've nothing but a desire to flee to safety. And so the Hulk is now out of the picture, and it's Submariner alone against the Avengers. Giant Man has him in his grasp. Do you still think you're stronger than me, little man? Submariner realizes my power is leaving me because I've been out of the water for so long. I need the Hulk. Where is he? Has he deserted me? And Thor is revving up his hammer. He says, hold him thus, giant man, while I find the Hulk again. Victory is now within our grasp. But in a last effort, Namor uses his winged feet to whirl himself around. And he says this will prove that none can defeat the monarch of the sea. And so he spins away out of Giant Man's grasp. The Thor tosses his hammer, says Iron Man has repaired his armor. I'll drive Namor towards him with my hammer. As Thor promised, his hammer whirls around Namor, driving him into the magnetic repulsor field of Iron Man, where he is temporarily pinned against the stone wall. Now I am free to battle the Hulk, says Thor, but there is no trace of him. He has fled. Submariner realizes the Hulk deserted me, betrayed me. Now I realize no human can be trusted. I despise you all. And Iron Man, as he uses his repulsor rays against Submariner, he says, I've got news for you, brother. The hatred is mutual. You're growing weaker by the minute, Namor. Why don't you give up? Let's try and talk this out. Never, never, while life remains within me, I shall fight you. I shall fight all mankind. With one last prodigious effort, the Submariner cracks the wall behind him as the water trickling down from above drips upon his steel-muscled body. Water, at last, water. That water revives him, and as new strength, new power surges into every fiber of his being, he breaks free. He says, I'm free. Nothing can hold me now. Wasp says, Thor, he's escaping. Only your hammer can stop him. Hurl it. Thor says, no, I have too much respect for his valor. Namor has earned his escape. Giant Man says, Thor is right. It's a pity the Submariner isn't on our side. And Iron Man said, we've made a bad mistake. He doesn't fight by our rules. We may live to regret this, letting Submariner escape. And as the Prince of the Sea returns to his natural habitat, diving into the ocean, he says, on land, I could not defeat them all, but I pray we meet again under the sea. Ah, how different the ending shall be then. And so, the Avengers return home, weary and sad of heart, for they all sense that the adventure they have just concluded is but a prelude to a far bigger, a far more dangerous adventure to come. One thing you've learned to expect from the mighty Marvel group is the unexpected. And we promise that the movie-length tale in the next Avengers issue will feature super characters and super surprises to exceed your wildest expectations. So we end looking at Giant Man, Iron Man, Thor, and Wasp, the four remaining Avengers. But you know what? There's a new Avenger waiting in the next issue. Who is that? Let's turn the page and see. Captain America lives again. I'm telling you folks, this is one of the greatest issues in the history of Marvel Comics, the return of Captain America. And when he takes his place in the Avengers, this is an historic event. I'm looking forward to telling you this story the next time we gather together. But this was a great story, wasn't it? The Hulk and the Submariner against the Avengers. Well, I'm telling you what, the Avengers have one great story after another, and there'll be more coming up later, I promise you. I love y'all. Bye-bye.